Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's Buzz with Busy Crochet. We are having a special episode on Sunday evening because we get to chat with an Aussie designer tonight. Her name is JJ. She's from a company called Peach and Paige, and she is a crochet and knit designer. But I wanted to make sure that if you're watching on YouTube and you want to stay informed, make sure you click and subscribe and hit the bell so that you know when we are going live. And then all of the links for today for JJ from Peach and Paige are going to be in the description box when you are commenting and watching later. And you are going to be able to chit chat today with JJ because we're going to have a question and answer session at the end. So make sure you stick around for that. All right, I'm going to bring JJ in. She is waiting on us.
Hi,
JJ. Thank you so much for joining us from down under tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. When we were talking just a little bit before, I was fangirling a little bit because I've made so many of your patterns. I'm absolutely a fan. So I'm so excited to be able to talk with you tonight. Or actually, it's morning there where you are, right?
It is. It's 10:30 in the morning here on a Monday morning. So
okay. So how is Monday for the rest of us?
Yeah, it's good. You've got good things to look forward to.
Excellent. We are very much looking forward to that. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and jump right in. Let's find out who you are. As much as you're comfortable with sharing with us, tell us a little bit about you. Like if you want to share anything about your family, and tell us about how you became Peach and Paige.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm obviously from here down in Australia, where I live with my husband. I've got 4 kids. So my eldest is 13, and then I've got a 10-year-old, 5-year-old, and a 2.5-year-old. So very busy, very busy. So yes, and I've lived down in Australia my whole life, other than briefly spending some time in Germany for my honeymoon. Other than that, I've never left the country, and it's a beautiful place to live. So I'm very blessed to live here.
It's a dream for me to go down there someday.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place, and it's a lovely, safe place to be. We're very lucky to live here. Where Peach and Paige came from. Where do I even start? So I guess I originally learned how to crochet back when I was probably about 10 years old. So my auntie taught me, and I think a lot of us learned when we were kids, when we went to spend time at our grandparents' house and things like that for holidays. So I originally learned just the good old granny square, learned how to make like a granny blanket as a child. And then I really didn't pick it up again for many, many years. That being said, I did digress into fashion design. So when I left school, I was studying fashion design at TAFE. And all growing up, when you know what you want to be when you're older, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So it was always sort of the thing that I wanted to do. But obviously I got more into the fashion design and the sewing aspect of it. But I hate sewing. I hate it with a passion.
Is it the sewing part or is it the cutting out the pattern part? Because that's the part that drove me crazy.
I love the designing. I love designing it. I loved taking sewing patterns and adjusting them and completely changing them. And that whole creative side of it I love, but the actual physical cutting it out and putting it together, I hated it. And so I dabbled in it for years, but at this stage I'd had 2 kids, and so being some fashion designer in Milan was off the table. I was a mum, and so it was really sort of just a hobby. Well, I had to have a real job, I suppose, so I could put food on the table, basically. So then I think it was about 2016. So sort of after I'd had 2 kids, before I had my second 2, I picked it up again at crochet, and I don't know even what made me do it. I'd say I was probably just sitting around one weekend and feeling creative and wanted something to do, and or I'd seen something online and picked up a crochet hook and jumped on YouTube and thought, I remember doing this as a kid, and sort of played around with it, and I think it just sort of took off from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just started making booties and beanies and did sort of a lot of made to order stuff
Mhm.
um, back in sort of 2016, 2017. So I was doing markets and things like that. And then, yeah, and then went into designing from there.
Wow. So do you remember what the very first thing, or not necessarily thing, but like item you designed? Do you remember what that
Yeah,
was?
yeah. So, well, what was happening was I was making these booties, and actually I'll show you because I
Okay.
grabbed some. 'Cause I'm like, I'm a visual
You
person, so
have to show up.
I was
Oh my
making it
God, those
like
are
these
adorable.
little, yeah. And so, and they were based off a pattern online, and I'd sort of, these was what I was sort of selling at market. So it was like little booties like these and little hair bows and just basic stuff.
Yes.
But what I found is that a lot of the patterns I was buying online, I wasn't happy with the sizing, or I was um, picking bits I liked from different patterns. And before I knew it, I had this whole book of patterns that I had written,
Yeah,
but they were
your
for
own
my
notes.
own use. And so it sort of happened subconsciously, I guess. Was I started designing booties and sort of using what I'd already learnt and tweaking it and making my own. And then I think the first pattern I actually released was a beanie. So it was just a basic beanie with some animal ears on it. And it's still on
Is
my
that the
Etsy
bunny one?
now. Yeah, so there's a bear, a fox, and a bunny.
Yeah, because I was looking through your blog and I did see that you have a free bunny hat on there. So
Yeah,
thanks for
yeah.
showing people.
Yep. So, and that was the first pattern that I released. But I was sort of, that imposter syndrome where you're like,
Yep.
there's no way I should be, I wasn't pushing the patterns. I
I'm
felt
not as
almost
amazing as
embarrassed.
everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it wasn't until my best friend sat me down and she's like, why aren't you selling more of these? Like, your patterns are amazing. They're so easy to read. And she really encouraged me to sort of move away from made to order to patterns. And it just exploded from there. And I think 2018 is when I started selling my designs, and then I stopped doing made to order and just focused on
Yeah.
designs.
Well, I'm glad that you did, because I haven't been following you since the beginning. I've only known you for known you. I've only known of you for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah,
And but I adore your stuff. Like, as soon as I saw it, I absolutely got sucked in. Because while I don't necessarily dress myself boho chic,
yeah,
you because you really have that aesthetic about your
yeah,
designs. I love it for babies and stuff like
yeah.
that, and most of your stuff is really geared towards kids. I do wanna throw this comment up real quick just because we've got somebody who has to go to bed. So, says, "I can't stay and watch it all as it's bedtime where I am. However, I wanted to say I love all the bloomers." And that is something I absolutely adore of yours. I have made your, polka dot, or the
Bobble bloomers.
thank you,
Yeah,
the bauble bloomers. I've made those several times, and they're just the funnest things. I
yeah,
absolutely love that pattern. So, but yes, the bloomers are what kinda sucked me in. I think the first thing I ever downloaded of yours was that little boho top that has the fringe, the little baby one. That was the
yeah,
first one, but I do have to show off. I also have this one,
yeah.
and I'm
I got one
saving
as
it
well.
for my future granddaughter.
I
Oh
got
my
one with
god,
me
yes, I
too.
love that pattern so much. It's
Yeah.
so cute. It's so fun. Sorry, I did not mean to totally derail us. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so let's get back to you as a designer. What is your favorite part of designing? I mean, is it that ability to take what you knew before and kind of drive it into something that's not quite as pain in the butt
Yeah.
sewing can be?
Absolutely. So it's and and it's certainly a fault of mine is that I have so many projects on the go because while I'm designing one thing, I'll think of something else, or I
Um,
get a lot of inspiration from sewn patterns. So there's
mm,
some amazing um baby wear makers out there for sewn
yes,
garments,
yeah.
and I'm like, oh, that would look so good as a crocheted item. And so it's, yeah, making that into the item, and I'll make my prototype and love it and be all ready to go. And then it's the size grading and having to make it in all the different sizes and doing all the maths. And so in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, why don't you do this? Oh, why don't you start doing this? And so then I'll be like, oh, I'll put that aside for a little bit and I'll start working on something new. And then before I know, I've got like 4 different half-finished patterns. It's something I'm working on. But yeah, it's certainly the design side of it is what I love doing. And unfortunately with that, then you actually have to write it up and size grade it and do all of that.
The grading part of that is really kind of daunting.
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple of blog posts up now about how to size grade patterns.
I saw that.
Yeah, and that's something I want to get back into doing soon too, is doing some more educational blog posts alongside my pattern writing to help others, because it is all about community, and I'm not here to try and be the only designer making my stuff. I want everyone to be able to do it. And so I do encourage people trying to learn how to write their own patterns, and there's so many people out there that have these brilliant ideas of things they want to do, but they just don't know how to put it on paper. And so, I want to do a whole lot of blog posts and a whole series of how to write your own patterns and things like that. That's
an amazing resource.
Yeah.
And especially coming from somebody who understands clothing and clothing making, I think it's so important to have those resources, because that's kind of what's held me up. I always thought, gosh, I really want to be a child's clothing designer, except that I don't know how to do the whole grading and the upsizing and all of that stuff. I'm like, I can make one size.
Yeah.
Here you go, world. But I know that's not what the world wants. They need more than one size.
And I've been very lucky, and this is where the advantage of having 4 children at different ages comes in, is that when I've been designing kids wear, and this is probably why I got into kids wear in the first place, because obviously my whole world was children and babies and toddlers, and that's what I was surrounded with all the time. And you would have probably seen, and people that have followed me will see quite often, you'll see my sons dressed up in some flouncy little top, because I need to try their size on. And when they're young, boys and girls, they're built exactly the same.
Yes.
Their chest size, waist, all of that is the same. So it doesn't matter what they're. So I quite often use my little 2-year-old, as my model for testing the fit on some little frilly top. And so that has helped a lot, having young kids at home, because I can test my patterns in real life and then fill the sizes in between.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So once they're all grown up, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be in trouble. But
yeah, well, I'm waiting on grandkids, because mine are 28 and 26, so there's no hope for that.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about your designs. You kind of specialize in children's stuff, but I noticed that this top in particular, it seems like it's also available in more adult or larger kid sizes.
Yeah.
Is adult designing something that you are adding, or is it something that it just only is available for certain designs?
Yeah, so the off the shoulder top goes up to age 12. So and I think a lot of it, once again, it's come down to my own kids. So when I first started, my children were quite young, whereas now my eldest is 13, my other daughter's 10. So I think I've naturally my designs have sort of changed a little bit, so that I am now more towards making sure that I'm covering really that sort of tween, early teens age group. And it's an area there's not a lot of patterns out there for.
There aren't.
You've got your baby wear, but as a mum of someone of 10, 11, 12-year-olds, they don't want little kid clothes.
No.
And a lot of the older stuff, like the bralettes and things like that, are too exposed.
They're a little too old.
Yeah. So there is that sort of gap, and where people are wanting to sort of make things for grandkids and stuff like that, and there's not a lot of patterns out there for that age group. So it is something that I'm now working on incorporating.
That's fantastic.
I do get a lot of requests from people going, oh, I wish this came in an adult size,
Yeah.
And there are a few designs that I've sort of graded up to adult sizing, and whether I will do more as my kids get older doing adult design stuff.
Mhm.
But
Well, because
I
once
think,
the girls hit about 16, they usually kind of stop growing at about that point.
well,
You
my
know,
13-year-old is the size of it. She's as tall as me, and she's in size 8, 10 women's clothing now
okay,
anyway.
yeah,
So, like the one adult top I got, the bralette that I did do,
mhm,
I used her as the size small for
okay,
fit for my 13-year-old, even though she's not allowed to wear that top out the house because it's completely unsuitable. But as a model, she was the right size for it.
sure,
But I think it's important to have a niche, and I don't want to lose my following as being a baby wear and children's wear designer. I
yeah,
think that's still my bread and butter, and I got to make sure I keep that because there are
yeah,
so many adults wear designers out there.
yeah.
So
It
yeah, I
is
might
really,
have,
it's really kind of um overwhelm a little bit.
yeah,
Because when I go onto Ravelry or wherever I go and I'm looking for a pattern, and I say, oh, I want to have a um, sweater. For instance, I have an older lady that I'm going to be making a sweater. She wanted one that was like a vest, didn't have a collar, that kind of stuff. So I narrowed and narrowed and narrowed and narrowed. And there were still so many to choose
yeah,
from. It was really crazy.
yeah, yeah. So you get lost in it. So I think for the time being, I think it's certainly going to be children's wear. Still certainly going to be my bread and butter. I mean, I do like I said, I quite enjoyed that bralette top that I made. But that being said, it wasn't a big seller. It hasn't really picked up. And it was a
Yeah.
good bit of a test pattern, and I think it's a lovely pattern. But
Mhm.
I think it's just got lost amongst all the hundreds of other very similar patterns there are out there. So, yeah, and for the time being, there'll be the occasional adult wear item,
Mhm.
but I think most of my stuff's going to be the children's wear and the decor. I do like my playing with a bit of decor stuff as well.
Yes, I did see that you have a variety of pillows to choose from as well,
Yeah,
and
so I've got some pillows, and I've made some little like plant hanger.
those are cute.
Yeah, some little plants. I like doing decor occasionally because there's no size grading. You need to make it once.
Yes, yes. Once you're done with it, you're done with it.
Yeah, and my pumpkins. So I don't know if you've seen my pumpkin pattern.
Yes, and they're really very nicely textured. That's one thing I like about them is they're not that normal vertical line texture. They've got that nubbiness to them.
Yeah. It's I can't even remember what the stitch was called now. I think it was called a berry stitch. But yeah, and so they believe it or not, these are my biggest seller. I
Are they?
specialize in children's wear, and I reckon I've sold more pumpkin patterns than all my other patterns
Isn't that
combined.
funny?
I literally have sold thousands of
Oh, I
copies of
don't doubt
every
it.
pattern. So you never know. So yeah, there's going to be those decor items, and I think I've got some stockings and other seasonal stuff like that as well. So
Yeah, there is a stocking. I did see that. Okay, so do you have any special projects that you are going to have coming up? Is there something that I know that you said you've always got a bunch of patterns going, but do you
yeah,
have anything that's maybe coming out soon that we can be looking for?
yeah. So there's two that I wanted to show today. So one, if you do follow me online, you would have seen this anyway. But I will be looking for testers literally within the next few days. So
I did see
keep an
that.
eye out. Yeah. So this is a little shrug.
Oh my
So
God,
it
it's
has,
so little.
yeah. So this is a size 2. So it is a little toddler one.
Okay.
But you've probably seen they are trending quite a bit at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
These sleeve only tops, and
Yeah.
again, it's all adult wear. There's nothing for littlies. So I'm like, you know what? Let's make a little kid one. But they won't go any less than a size 2 because they just don't work for babies. But for little toddlers and kids that want the little, so that's coming out, and that'll be size 2 up to size 12. And it's a beautiful like lacy, which I don't normally do.
Oh, that is cute.
Yeah, it's
You could really
beautiful
wear it
lacy.
multi-season.
Yeah. No, it's a good sort of in between top. So yeah, so I'll be looking for testers soon for that, but I'll put a shout out on my socials and send an email out to all my subscribers when that is open. And then the other one, which I haven't finished this yet, but I did want to do a little bit of a sneak peek. as well. And excuse me, because it is half finished. But it's going to be a little wrap top.
Oh my God.
Size 2. And it's one of those sort of wrap crossover little,
like a ballet style sweater.
Yeah, like a ballet style top. Also in 4-ply. So they're 2 tops that I'm working on at the moment.
Those are awesome. I love them.
Yeah, so this one will be I'll get back working on this one. Once again, working on 2 things at a time, but I just had an idea and had to have a play around with
it. That's so fun.
So they're sort of the 2 things I got coming out at the moment, and then I don't know what I'll be doing after that. Like I said, I want to probably take a step back from designing for a couple of months and do a bit of focus on doing some more blog style stuff and some more educational style things after that as well. So
yeah, you and I were talking about before we started our live, we were talking about the importance of doing more videos and things like that, because the whole landscape of like being online, it's not just about blogs anymore, because people, I mean, while they do use blogs, it's more about the video, because you had mentioned the AIs.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's really taking away from, but you had said something, and I would rather you talk about like your idea on, like, why do you feel like it's important for you to maybe do more video blogs and things like that?
Yeah, so something that my husband's quite computer savvy, and so we sort of stay up to date with a lot of things that are going on, and I'm sure most of you have probably seen on the news and things like that. There's this whole new AI or Chat GPT. I think there's a Google one, like Bing's brought up all this AI technology that's just exploding, and the possibilities are endless, and it's amazing what these things can do. But I think there's a lot of us, especially those of us that are in small business, that are a little bit cautious about, well, what's this going to mean for me? I know there's I've seen on some crochet pages, they've even tried to see if this computer technology can design patterns, and whilst it creates a pattern by picking and choosing things, and the things it comes up with look absolutely ridiculous, but the technology's there, and as it refines, it will get better and better. And then those of us that do blogging, like I've played around with this the Chat GPT thing, and I can put in, literally write a blog about top 10 tips for crocheters, and it will write an entire blog.
Wow.
And that's all I have to type in. And so you could literally just copy and paste that into a blog post, and no one would know the difference. And so
you kind of lose the author voice. You lose that authenticity behind the blog. The reason that we started falling in love with people and following them and their creativity and all of that stuff, it kind of just goes away.
It does. And you lose that human aspect. And that's why but video is still so, well, it's you still got that human there behind it. And so I think it's the changing face is definitely going to be around video. And you've even seen it on social media now. It's all about Reels. It's all about TikTok. Video is where it's at the moment. And that's the way it's going, because it is still, it's real. It gives you that human aspect, which is now getting lost with written language and written blogs online.
Really, I agree with you completely. The other thing too, though, you had mentioned Reels and stuff like that. I've noticed another thing with some of the designers and people that I follow on Instagram, that there's kind of a real fatigue coming, where people they're kind of on this hamster wheel where it's create, and they're so exhausted trying to keep up with the algorithms and creation that you kind of have to be careful as a creator that you don't allow yourself to become absolutely burnt out by all of that. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. And that's something I struggle with. I'm not, like, I'm on TikTok, but I mean, I have a couple of things on there. And I have a few reels, but it's not what I do. And when you're a small business owner, if you're a sole trader, you are everything. You are the marketing team. You are you know, the social media team. You are the designer, you're the maker, you're everything. And
Yeah.
to have a really big following online and on TikTok and stuff, you need to just be creating constant content. I'm not an influencer. That's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't
Same.
want to be an influencer. I want to be a designer.
Right.
But unfortunately, to get growth and get out there, you are literally spending 50% of your time doing content creation.
Yes. I just talked to my friend today, and I asked her, I said, can I get permission to just not design anything this year?
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, like, I spend so much time at my computer doing all of the paperworky things
Yeah.
that I don't have any want to
No.
sometimes. And
Yeah.
I've been working on like little projects here and there, but sometimes you just have to have that permission from somebody else to, no, you can just take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It's exhausting. And you know what, sometimes you're not always, you're not in that mindset and you're not in the mood, but heaven forbid you miss a day or two of posting something on Instagram. And
Yes.
it is hard. You really got to wear all hats, and it'll be interesting to see how things continue, because I think
For sure.
TikTok's been around for a little bit now. It's not the new thing. So it will be interesting to see how it continues to change and grow, and you know, what ends up happening moving forward for people in sort of creative industries.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. All right, so let's just talk about something fun. Do you have any favorite TV shows, movies, genres that you are a fan of?
I am a massive true crime junkie.
Yay!
Yeah, so as listening to like blogs and stuff, so I love like Case File, which is a true crime podcast. So I love listening to that. And for TV shows, it's my number one is definitely Criminal Minds. I've
My
watched that
husband's literally watching
all the
it
way
right now.
through.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, Criminal Minds is definitely up there. And I've been getting into rewatching Desperate Housewives lately.
Really, I've never seen that.
Desperate Housewives came out back. I mean, I probably would have been a teenager when it first came out, and so I didn't relate to it. But I saw it up on, I think it's on Prime Video here in Australia, the series, and there's like 14 seasons or something like that. But now that I'm sort of a bit older, I can sort of relate to the characters more, and so I've been getting into that a bit lately, as sort of a bit of a background show. So,
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
My husband is we call him a reality TV junkie. But he refuses to do anything that has to do with love. So we've had to be very selective about the ones that we actually tap into. And we watched The Challenge, and like, did you watch The Traitors Australia?
No.
Oh, it's such a good show. If you like crime mystery kind of shows, it's such a good show. And I like the Australian one the best out of all three, because they've got a US, a UK, and Australian.
Okay.
The Australian one is just more fun.
Yeah.
It's the US and the UK are almost the same format, but the Australian ones, they just do what they want.
Yeah.
And they're just they're just a little more fun.
Yeah.
And but it's about this group of people, and 4 of them get tapped as traitors. And so every day or every night somebody gets killed. That means they have to leave the show. And then everybody has to try and figure out who the traitors are. So that night they banish whoever they think is the traitor, and they have to try and get the traitors out, but they end up getting a lot of the faithfuls out in the process.
Yeah.
It's just a fun show, and you kind of have your favorites, and it's just like any other reality TV. You fall in love with
I haven't even heard of it. I mean, we don't watch a lot of free-to-air TV, but especially seeing as there was an Australian version of it.
We only have streaming, so it's on Prime, or is it? Yeah, I would look on Prime.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll have to have a look. Have a look.
Like, we are junkies for anything Australian, just because your shows are done so well.
Oh. Well,
they just are.
Yeah.
We like foreign TV. But anyway, so I want to let everybody know that we're going to be winding up our conversation. So if you've got some questions for JJ, I would love for you to pop them in the chat box. And then I want to ask you, while we're waiting for those questions to come in, do you have any tips for new designers or fiber artists that are coming in that either want to start their own business or just, they're just getting their feet wet?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is just to trust yourself and have faith in yourself, and don't question your own abilities, because you're probably doing a lot better than you think you are. Because that was something, like I said, I was so hesitant to release my patterns because I thought there was no way that they were good enough. They weren't professional enough. But unless you actually give it a go, you can sit there umming and ahhing and, keep trying to tweak things. And unless you just got to put it out there, just do it. Just do it. You've got nothing to lose. Just go for it.
That's great. That's great advice. And I do want to remind everybody that if you go to JJ's website, it's peachandpaige.com. She's got great resources on there. I did notice the Cotton Candy Creatives. What is that? Because that's where you have your pattern grading.
Yeah, so on my website, and it's something I'm probably going to have to tidy up because the website I use isn't great for blogs. So I was sort of running two different blogs on my website, one that was the free patterns and one that was the Cotton Candy Creatives, and that was more the business tips and tricks. So the pattern grading blogs and things like that. And I do have a Facebook group as well that I've started up, but it sort of hasn't really taken off. But I haven't put a lot of work into it either, which was just an open Facebook group. But I mean, they're similar to all the other ones that are out there, but ones where other people can share patterns that they're releasing. So it's very advertising friendly.
That's great to know. I've got a lot of friends who I'll let them know.
Because I know there's a lot of these crochet groups out there, and I'm in quite a few of them, but there's some of them that no, you can't advertise, you can't.
Yeah.
Why? Like, you know, you're not hurting anybody. Get it out there. So it was really about creating a Facebook group that was all about let people know what you're releasing. Let's, work together as a community and lift each other up. And that's, I want to sort of get back into doing a lot of that stuff later on this year.
You had mentioned community, and that seems like there's kind of not a new theme, but it's rising up again, where creating a community within the fiber art world, the community or competition thing. And I think you were saying that there are so many of those groups that don't allow the people to share or, post anything that you're creating. I mean, like, it's like anti-advertising, which I understand it can get very spammy. But I think there was also a period of time where designers felt threatened by other designers.
Yeah.
And it was like, I can't let you, because I've even read some things. I'm what you would call a professional Facebook comment reader. So I will go through comment sections and just read, just because I want to see what the conversation is. But I've seen in there where people are like, well, I'm hesitant to give somebody information about what stitch I used, because what if they, but we all forget that it's not going to be the same because it's you doing it and not me.
Absolutely. Do you know how many different brands and labels have released t-shirts? Just because, there's not only one place you can buy a t-shirt from. You can still make it your own, and especially for your more simple designs. There's probably 200 odd different cat ear beanie patterns out there, but it doesn't mean that you can't release your own, as long as you're not copying someone else's pattern and literally transferring it over. Make it your own. But there's room for everybody. Everything's been done at least once in some way. I've got 30 odd plus patterns, but I can tell you what, if you look in the deep dark web, you could probably find pretty similar designs that have been done before and have been done since.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean they were copying me or I was copying someone else.
Mhm.
You're going to come across designs that are similar. You know,
Yeah.
it's inevitable. But it doesn't mean that you can't make it your own, and you can't, as long as you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
There's room for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely comes down to the integrity of the person behind the design for sure.
Yeah.
There was something else that, darn it, it came in and it flew right back out. I can't remember what it was. Apparently it wasn't that important. I apologize. But if it comes back up, I'll ask again. But you had talked also about how your designs have evolved over the years from just the little bitty people stuff into do you feel like you as a designer, your aesthetic did you always love that kind of boho chic, or is it something that's just kind of come out of lately?
I
What
think
has inspired you to go that direction?
I think a lot of, when I got started doing this back 6 years ago, so I was sort of in my mid-20s when I started. So I was a young mum, and
Oh, we have a little bit of a pause.
there we go.
I wasn't it just keeps pausing, and I'm not sure if it's you or if it's me, but we'll just hang out for a minute. All right. It seems like we've frozen. Let me try just removing her and bringing her back. Remove. I'm gonna bring it back. Oh, seems like we've lost you, JJ. But I've got you on, so hopefully it comes back up. There you are.
All right, are we back?
We are back.
Okay. I don't know what happened there.
Oh no. Are you guys having weather there maybe? Well, let's see if we can bring her back again. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody. We're trying to get it worked out. Let's see if this works. So you guys must have not had any major questions for JJ. While we're waiting, make sure that you guys put your questions in there if you have anything that you want to know from her or about her. Oh, it looks like we've lost JJ. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Buzz with Busy Crochet. I apologize that we have lost our guest, and we will. Oh, wait, looks like she's flickering. Haha, let's see. Are you there?
I am.
Hi, welcome back.
It may just be the internet. You know what? I reckon Australia's got some of the worst NBN, like the worst broadband internet in.
Oh, I don't know. Florida's pretty bad.
It's shocking. We're doing really well.
Oh no, we're freezing again. Well, if we lose her again, I did talk with JJ. There she is. Maybe she stays. But we did talk about doing another video at another time too. So hopefully we will be able to get back together if this doesn't clear up and come back. And I hope that you've enjoyed getting to know JJ a little bit better. Alrighty, we're going to wait just a little bit longer and see if the video comes up. Sorry, I had to wait. Are you there? You're there. There she is. Miss JJ. Oh no, it seems like every time you talk, it freezes again. Oh, you poor thing. Okay. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it, and hopefully JJ is going to come back, and we will. So just so that you guys don't have to wait for us and our technical difficulties, I'm going to end the broadcast for now, but we will bring JJ back at another time so that we can finish our conversation with her. Alrighty, I'm going to just go ahead and remind you that if you are watching on YouTube or if you are watching on a replay, make sure that you please mark it as a replay so that we know when the comments are being put in. And if you have any questions, make sure that you put them in the comments section. And in the description, I'm going to make sure to list all of JJ's information. And so you can see her website and get to her blog and her Facebook group as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight, and I appreciate all of your time. We'll talk with you again.